In the digital age, every click, every comment, and every post leaves its mark in the boundless expanse of the internet. This invisible, yet very real imprint forms what is now called a digital reputation. Your online image is composed of thousands of small fragments: photos on social media, comments under posts, YouTube videos, ratings on delivery services, and even search queries. The internet has an astonishing memory. It rarely truly forgets anything. Information, once it enters the network, can persist for years, shaping your digital portrait. It is especially important for modern children and teenagers to understand this, as they are growing up in a world where the line between real and virtual life is becoming increasingly blurred. For them, digital reputation is not just an abstract concept, but the foundation of future opportunities. Employers, educational institutions, potential partners, all of them now pay attention to a person's digital footprint before making a decision about collaboration. What is online reputation? It is a digital reflection of a person, formed from all our virtual interactions. Like a mosaic, it is composed of many elements: social media profiles, blogs, comments, publications, and even likes. Every action online adds a new stroke to your digital portrait, which over time becomes more detailed and influential. In the modern world, online reputation acquires critical importance, often surpassing the importance of a real-life image. Why? Because the digital footprint is accessible to millions of people, persists for years, and forms the first impression of a person. For many employers, educational institutions, and business partners, it is the online image that becomes the decisive factor in decision-making. Interestingly, digital reputation has a tendency to accumulate and strengthen. Positive reviews, professional publications, participation in significant online projects create a strong foundation of trust. However, negative elements also tend to become entrenched online, creating long-term reputational risks. It is especially important to understand that, unlike reputation in the real world, which is formed within a limited circle of people, digital identity exists on a global scale, overcoming geographical, temporal, and social boundaries. The digital life of modern children begins long before they themselves realize its significance. Already in the first years of a child's life, parents share their photos on social networks, creating that very digital footprint which will become the foundation of their future online reputation. This phenomenon has been termed quote, from the English words quote and quote. By the time a child picks up a smartphone themselves, their virtual personality already exists. Preschoolers, playing educational apps or watching cartoons on YouTube, begin to form their first digital preferences. Algorithms remember their choices, creating a unique digital map of interests. In early school age, children take their first independent steps into social networks. They choose avatars, invent nicknames, and leave their first comments. It is during this period that basic skills of digital communication and self-presentation are laid. It is important to understand that children's perception of the internet fundamentally differs from that of adults. For a 7 to 9-year-old child, the virtual space is an extension of play, where the same rules apply as on the playground. They do not yet realize the permanence of a digital footprint and the public nature of their actions. Adolescence becomes a turning point in the formation of digital identity. Social networks turn into a key platform for self-expression and socialization. Teenagers experiment with different images, seek their communication style, and learn to manage the impression they make. Their online reputation becomes multi-layered and complex. Today, for many teenagers, the internet is not just a place for communication, but a real launching pad for professional development. What starts as a hobby often grows into a full-fledged career. 14-year-old Sonia began filming videos about drawing out of boredom during her summer holidays. 3 years later, her channel boasts over 1 million subscribers, and major art supply brands offer her advertising contracts. Sonia's story is not an exception, but rather the new norm. Thousands of teenagers worldwide are turning their hobbies into profitable online projects. Gaming streams, book reviews, programming tutorials, fashion lookbooks. The opportunities for self-realization are practically limitless. It's important to understand that behind the apparent ease lies serious work. Successful young bloggers create content daily, study analytics, interact with their audience, and constantly improve their skills. They intuitively master marketing, audience psychology, and the fundamentals of entrepreneurship. It's noteworthy that teenagers' digital careers often develop much faster than traditional ones. 16-year-old Artyom, who created a popular e-sports community, is already collaborating with international companies and earning more than his parents. His success is directly linked to a carefully built online reputation. His audience values him for his expertise, honesty, and consistency. However, a digital career also has its pitfalls. Public exposure requires emotional resilience, and constant online presence can lead to burnout. Furthermore, the online content market is becoming increasingly competitive, which demands not only talent, but also strategic thinking from young creators. In the modern digital world, our value is often measured by 5 stars, hearts, and thumbs up. This invisible currency of social capital determines whom we trust, whose services we choose, and whose opinions we rely on. The rating and review system has become a universal language of trust on the internet. Every like under a teenager's photo, every subscription to a young blogger's channel, every positive review of a budding freelancer's work, these are bricks in the foundation of their digital reputation. The mechanism is simple. The higher the rating, the more trust a person inspires in an unfamiliar audience. Psychologists note an interesting phenomenon. Our self-esteem is increasingly tied to digital popularity metrics. For teenagers, the number of likes under a post can become a real emotional roller coaster. A sharp drop in usual metrics causes anxiety and a feeling of social rejection, while an unexpected rise brings euphoria and a sense of recognition. This dependence forms a new type of motivation. The pursuit of approval not from specific individuals, but from an impersonal digital audience. Systems of mutual evaluation create a special economy of trust. We are more willing to trust a stranger with 5 stars on a delivery service than a person without a rating. This mechanism also works in reverse. A reputation once tarnished requires significantly greater effort to restore. Children and teenagers who are just learning to manage their digital image are particularly vulnerable in this system. One ill-considered publication or aggressive comment can undermine their online reputation for a long time. It is important to understand, however, that rating systems are not all the same. Likes on social networks reflect social attractiveness. Professional recommendations on business platforms speak to competence, and customer reviews indicate reliability and quality of services. Every comment we leave on the internet is like a brushstroke on the canvas of our digital portrait. These seemingly fleeting text notes coalesce into a complete picture by which others judge our intelligence, upbringing, and values. Surprisingly, people who have never met you in person often form an opinion solely based on your communication style in comments. The tone, word choice, ability to argue, or, conversely, a propensity for emotional outbursts. All of this creates a vivid psychological profile of the individual. Comments act as litmus paper, instantly revealing the level of critical thinking, empathy, and emotional intelligence. 15-year-old Marina, who leaves thoughtful comments under popular science videos, is perceived by the community quite differently from her peer Dennis, known for his aggressive statements in gaming chats. Constructive communication in the online space rests on 3 pillars: respect for the interlocutor, informativeness of the statement, and appropriateness of the comment. These principles are universal for any platform, from professional forums to entertainment communities. Interestingly, different online platforms form their own commenting culture. What is acceptable in one community may be categorically rejected in another. The ability to sense these unwritten rules and adapt to them is an important skill in digital socialization. For teenagers, it is especially important to understand that their comments are seen not only by peers, but also by potential employers, teachers, and partners. One thoughtless comment can close doors to a desired opportunity, while a series of constructive discussions can open new perspectives. The internet never forgets. This phrase becomes especially significant when it comes to reputational risks in the digital space. One thoughtless post can haunt a person for years, and negative information spreads like wildfire. Digital reputation is susceptible to many threats, from which no one is immune. Trolling, a phenomenon where anonymous users intentionally provoke conflicts, can turn ordinary communication into a real nightmare. The story of 17-year-old Kirill is illustrative. After publishing his music video, he faced a wave of ridicule, which led to the deletion of his channel and a long struggle with depression. Cyberbullying, a more systemic and cruel form of harassment, can destroy not only one's virtual image, but also one's psychological health. 13-year-old Elisa became a target for classmates after a failed performance at a school concert. The video spread through local groups, and the comments became a weapon that wounded more deeply than physical blows. Account hacking is another serious threat. When attackers gain access to a profile, they can not only steal personal data, but also perform actions on your behalf, instantly destroying a reputation built over years. Teenagers, often neglecting basic rules of digital security, are especially vulnerable to this threat. It is important to understand that negative information on the internet has a special tenacity. Even deleted posts can remain in search engine caches, on third-party resources, or as screenshots. The mechanism of negative spread works on the principle of a chain reaction. One post generates dozens of reposts, hundreds of comments, and thousands of views. At the same time, refutations and apologies rarely receive the same reach, creating an information imbalance. The internet remembers everything. This phrase sounds like a warning to anyone who has ever published something online. A digital footprint possesses an astonishing property of longevity. What we consider fleeting, a casual photo from a party, an emotional comment under a post, an ill-considered joke, can persist in the digital space for years, sometimes decades. Search engines index information, web archives save copies of pages, and users take screenshots. The story of 17-year-old Maxim vividly illustrates this reality. His aggressive comments in a gaming community, left at 13, surfaced 4 years later when applying to a prestigious programming school. The interview, which should have been a formality, turned into an unpleasant conversation about digital ethics. In the modern world, universities and employers regularly check candidates' digital footprints. 80% of recruiters admit to examining applicants' social media before making a hiring decision. History knows many examples where careers were ruined due to old posts. The concept of the right to be forgotten arose precisely as a response to this problem. It implies the possibility of deleting outdated or irrelevant information about oneself from search engines. However, in practice, The implementation of this right faces serious limitations. Even if information disappears from search results, it may remain on original resources, in archives, or in copies. Digital amnesia is a luxury that modern technologies cannot yet guarantee us. In today's digital world, protecting one's online reputation is not just a desirable skill, but a necessary one. So, how can you safeguard your virtual image from unforeseen risks? The first line of defense is privacy settings on social networks. Regularly check what information about you is accessible to outsiders. Limit the circle of people who can see your posts, tag you in photos, or send messages. Remember, an open profile is an invitation for the whole world to peek into your life. The second important principle is careful content filtering before publishing. Ask yourself a simple question: will I be ashamed of this post in 5 years? If there's even the slightest doubt, refrain from publishing. This particularly applies to emotional statements, critical comments, and personal photos. Regularly monitoring mentions of your name online is another effective protection tool. Set up alerts in search engines for your name and nicknames to promptly react to any mentions. Early detection of a problem significantly simplifies its resolution. If you encounter negative information about yourself, act quickly but thoughtfully. Remain calm and do not engage in public conflicts. This will only amplify the spread of undesirable content. Instead, use official mechanisms, contacting the Resource Administration, requesting content removal, or exercising the right to be forgotten. Remember that the best defense is to create a strong, positive digital footprint that outweighs any negative moments. Creating a positive digital image is not an accident, but the result of a conscious strategy. In a world where first impressions are often formed online, the ability to build your digital identity becomes a key skill. A positive digital image begins with authenticity. Be yourself, but the best version of yourself. Sincerity attracts people in both the real and virtual worlds. Professional content is the second cornerstone of a positive reputation. Share your achievements, knowledge, and talents. 14-year-old Maria turned her passion for astronomy into a popular blog where she explains complex cosmic phenomena in simple language. Her profile became an example of how a hobby can become the basis for a respected digital image. Participation in meaningful online projects is another way to strengthen your reputation. Volunteering in digital educational initiatives, helping newcomers in professional communities, organizing virtual events. All this creates the image of a responsible and competent person. Consistency in behavior builds audience trust. Sharp changes in views, communication style, or content can raise suspicion. If your digital image evolves rather than revolutionizes, people are more likely to trust you. Remember that your digital identity must be holistic. Contradictions between different platforms or a sharp contrast between your real and virtual image create an impression of insincerity. Strive for harmony in all aspects of your digital life. This is the foundation of a strong and positive reputation. A child's digital world begins not with their first account, but with their parents' first post about them. Adults become the architects of children's initial digital reputation, often without even realizing the extent of their influence. In this context, the role of parents and educators cannot be overstated. They are not merely observers, but key mentors in shaping a child's healthy digital image. Effective digital upbringing is built on 3 pillars: personal example, open dialogue, and a reasonable balance of control and trust. Children learn digital behavior by observing adults. When a mother checks every one of her photos before posting, and a father refrains from emotional comments online, the child unconsciously absorbs these behavioral patterns. Teachers who demonstrate respectful communication in school chats instill in students an understanding of digital ethics. An open dialogue about the risks and opportunities of the internet should begin long before a child's first independent venture online. Conversations about privacy, digital footprint, and reputational risks should be adapted to age, but not postponed. Real-life stories that make abstract threats tangible are especially valuable. The most difficult challenge is finding a balance between control and trust. Total surveillance undermines relationships and does not teach independence, while complete freedom leaves a child unprotected from digital threats. The optimal solution is joint exploration of the digital space with a gradual expansion of independence. An important aspect of support is teaching digital hygiene, regularly checking privacy settings, creating strong passwords, and critically evaluating information. These skills, instilled in childhood, become a reliable foundation for a positive digital reputation for life. We stand on the threshold of a new era of digital reputation. Technologies are developing rapidly, changing not only the tools for managing one's online image, but also the very principles of its formation. Artificial intelligence, virtual reality, blockchain. These technologies are already transforming our digital presence today. Machine learning algorithms analyze our online behavior, creating detailed psychological profiles. Facial recognition systems link physical and virtual identity into a single whole. Metaverses blur the line between real and digital existence. In these conditions, reputation management requires new competencies. Critical thinking becomes a key skill for filtering information noise and resisting manipulation. Digital empathy, the ability to understand the emotional context of online interactions, acquires particular value. Adaptability allows for quickly mastering new platforms and communication formats. For the younger generation, these skills are not just useful, but vitally necessary. Children born in the 2020s will live in a world where digital and physical realities are inseparable. Their reputation will become a single construct, not divided into online and offline components. It is important for parents and educators to understand we are preparing children for a digital future whose contours are only beginning to emerge. Our task is to equip them not with specific tools, which will inevitably become outdated, but with fundamental principles of positive and conscious presence in the digital world.